Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pride Action TV, a live and interactive TV show that is a project of the project of Pride Action Tank and the AIDS Foundation of Chicago. During the show, you can call in with questions and comments for our guests by dialing 312-738-1060. My name is Kim L. Hunt, and I'm the Executive Director of Pride Action Tank, which is a social justice lab devoted to improving outcomes for LGBTQ communities through a collaborative process of inquiry, advocacy, and action. Our focus areas are aging, financial security, health, housing, safety, and youth. And you can find out more about us at prideactiontank.org. You can also find us on Facebook and at Twitter, at Pride Action Tank. So tonight, I'm going to be talking with Pleshette M. Ham Murphy about an upcoming foster parent recruitment event focused on the needs of teens in the care of the Illinois Department of Children with Family Services, otherwise known as DCFS. So Pleshette is a licensing supervisor at ChildServe, which is over 100 years old and has the mission to help Chicagoland's at-risk children and their families to build, achieve, and sustain better lives. She has worked in the social work field for over the last 25 years in many capacities and believes service is the price we pay for the time we have on earth. I love that. ChildServe is one of 10 DCFS contractors hosting an event on October 22nd. This is a recruitment event that's going to be at Kennedy King. So welcome to the show, Pleshette. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And yourself?
I'm good.
Great.
So tell us about ChildServe and the work you do there.
Well, I am a licensing supervisor and adoption supervisor for ChildServe. I am in charge of recruiting, licensing foster parents, and providing foster parent support for all the foster parents that come through our program. I'm also involved in working to develop mentorships for some of our youth and our older adolescents at ChildServe.
Can you tell us about the foster parent licensing process? I know a lot of people want to know about that.
Yes, it's a very involved process. We at ChildServe, and like most of the agencies within the state of Illinois, we have an orientation process, and the orientation allows you to come out and meet and gain information about the agency, see about the mission and vision for that particular agency, and see if that matches what your mission and vision for coming into foster care is. And then we go through the necessary steps to become a licensed foster parent, which includes a 27-hour DCFS training class. You have to go through a background and fingerprint process. We do a home study, a home assessment on all the foster families that come into care, which includes talking to your spouse and the children, and gaining references for people who know about your ability to care for children in care.
And about how long does that process take?
Well, the process can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. It really depends on the rate in which the foster parent wants to complete the process. The process, usually the longest part is obtaining the training that we have to have, because many of our foster parents work. So trying to balance work but getting the 27 hours that DCFS requires for you to become a traditional foster parent is sometimes challenging, but the department has done a really good job of providing trainings during the evenings and on Saturdays to accommodate those individuals.
Okay. I understand we have a caller. Hello.
Good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
Well, I guess you guys will get to know me pretty well. I'll let you know my first name, Joe. It seemed like the state and other supported agencies, and it seemed like these programs that we have around, it seems like they are trying to take the place of a parent. My brother, he deals with high-risk youth, and it's just mind-boggling. I understand there's certain situations where the parent's not there, and we got a problem in our society. I'll be real quick. If we could do something about in terms of teenage pregnancy that have a dominant effect, if we can just try to get these teens to try to hold off from having these children until they're like 25, we would not have certain types of problems. But what we do, we reward in so many different ways for bad behavior. That's what we do. And we look at these programs they have out here, it's all about, okay, you got a problem, we're going to do everything that is under the sun to try to replace a parent. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. We'll try to address that. So there was a lot in there.
Right.
One thing I want to point out is, though, obviously there are teens who are getting pregnant. The rate of teenage pregnancy has actually gone down over the last several years. Yes. So ironically, teenage pregnancies among LGBTQ youth have gone up a little bit, which is really interesting. But let's talk about who's in foster care and how they get there, or who's in DCFS care, I should say, and how they get there.
Yeah, currently we have about 14,000 kids, youth in care in the state of Illinois, and they come in for variety of reasons. Everything from neglect and abuse, medical neglect, physical abuse and neglect. Some kids come in as victims and survivors of sexual abuse. Some kids come in for any number of reasons where the children's abilities to be raised in a loving, caring environment that's safe and nurturing has been compromised. And that encompasses, so many things. We could have a laundry list of what that encompasses. So that's usually how the children come into the care, into the system, and then they're placed into foster care, temporary housing or temporary care until the kid can be reunited with the family.
And is the focus usually on reuniting if the circumstances are ideal for that?
Absolutely. The first point of order is that we always want to get kids back with their family. And if we can provide, we meaning the department and private agencies, can provide services to families and to the communities to help them address the mitigating circumstances that brought the kids into care. Of course, the kids want to go back to the families. Of course, we want the kids to go back to the families. However, sometimes that's just not possible. It's not in their best interest. The environments may not be the safest. The parents may not have the full capacity to be able to care for them and parenting, so we then determine other alternatives to care.
Okay. So I know you have this event coming up with the coalition of DCFS contractors, and let me just show this so that people see it. So there's an event coming up October 22nd at Kennedy King, and that's a Saturday. It's a recruitment event for folks who are interested in becoming licensed foster parents. And it is focused on teenagers. And this is not the first event this group has done, right? You did one for LGBTQ youth in July, I think it was.
That's correct.
So tell me how this coalition came together and what the focus is and how you came to these targeted recruitment events.
Well, I am really, really excited about this collaborative effort. We are 10 agencies that came together because we saw a need. We saw a need to be able to develop loving homes for our foster parents, and we know that we couldn't do it in isolation. And just the idea of having 10 agencies and 10 resources coming together to focus on recruiting and finding loving and homes for our children and youth in care, it's really exciting. So we've been in existence and working together for about since February of this year, and we have a commitment to work together for a year. And as you mentioned, we did one event, and we focus on the LGBTQ community youth, and this event is focusing on teens. And the reason why we chose teens this time is because more than 4,000 kids who are youth in care are between the ages of 15 and 20, and they're not in loving and stable homes. They're on the streets, they're in residentials, they're in group homes. Some of them are in the juvenile justice system. So we know that there's a great need for that age group, and we wanted to target foster parents who want to be able to help our youth and our adolescents. This generation really needs loving and caring parents, consistent support from folks who can provide them with homes, safe, secure families, abilities to be able to be successful in life. So we decided that this should be our next venture.
Okay. So Pride Action Tank got involved because we were working with DCFS on a project that we hope to pilot soon that is focused on bringing more foster care parents into the system, specifically for LGBTQ youth who are also deemed kind of hard to place.
Right.
Sometimes these young people have been kicked out of their homes because of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression, and sometimes even when they move into foster homes, the same issue comes up because folks just aren't prepared. Exactly. And I was very impressed by the event. I think there were over 100 people who came, and many of them very interested in fostering. And I know one of the couples that we were able to interview on videotape for our project has said that they already have a teenager who identifies as queer, and they want to continue to foster LGBTQ youth specifically. So given the success of that event, I am certain this is going to be fantastic. So I'm curious, so folks who are listening now who are thinking about fostering, a lot of times people fostering or adopting, they think about toddlers or babies. What would you say to convince folks to at least consider fostering teenagers?
Well, I think one of the biggest issues is that our youth, particularly those youth between the ages of 12 and 20, are having struggles with identities. They're trying to find homes. They're trying to find adults who understand the life and society that they are dealing with right now, which is very different from many of us. I mean, we have the age of the internet. You have social media. You have all this bullying that's going on. You have issues with kids who are trying to and struggling with their sexual identity. So there's a whole host of issues that our young people are dealing with, not to mention the violence and the gangs and all those things that they are faced with every day. So they need homes and adults who understand that and who can relate to them, who can understand that sometimes they make bad decisions, sometimes they make mistakes.
Don't we all?
Right, but you're not unnerved by it. You know, we all once were teenagers and we made decisions that weren't the best, but we had loving and supportive families and communities that chastised us and gave us direction when we were wrong, and also continue to love and support us so that we could be productive members of our societies. Research has shown that when a teenager or a young person between those ages that I mentioned have a loving and stable person that supported them, they do much better in school. They're much better, more likely to attend college or find some career choice. They have better self-esteem. They're less likely to use drugs. And as the caller mentioned, that even one article even suggests that they're more apt to use better parenting skills and parent planning. So we know that this is an age group that we have to reach if we're going to make any impact on society and any impact on the many issues that our young people are facing today.
I want to show the event again. So folks who are interested in coming, the RSVP link is listed. It's illinoiscap.org/event/foster our teens, hyphens between foster our teens. And I really encourage you to come out. It's at Kennedy King, October 22nd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The address is 6301 South Halstead. So there are 10 organizations that are part of this Foster Our Youth Coalition. How did these particular organizations come together?
Well, we were a part of a larger child welfare meeting that happened early part of this year, and we all knew that we were struggling with the same issue, recruiting foster parents to provide loving and caring homes for our children, and also being able to have them trained to deal with the many trauma and traumatic events that the youth face today. So we all were struggling with that. And, everybody was doing it in isolation. And so we decided that, 10 heads are a lot better than one. And if 10 agencies can get together and try to find a way to recruit and retain and support and train foster parents, it was a much better approach than just trying to do it in isolation.
And does that, were there any issues of competition, or, how did you sort that sort of thing out, since everybody is kind of doing the same thing?
Yeah, it was, amazingly enough, there was no competition. We all knew that there was a need, and we all came together. We all decided that we would have this collaborative process. We came up with the name Call to Action for our group name. We all signed an agreement to stay with this project for a year, to host 3 events, and this is our second of that third event, to try to see if we could have an impact on how we recruit and retain and support foster parent and providing homes for our children in the Illinois and in the Chicagoland area.
And what can people expect on the 22nd?
Well, I'm very, very excited about this because, oftentimes when you have forums, it's oftentimes the agencies talking about what we can do as to recruit foster parents, in our training and our orientation of that will occur. But the most important thing that will occur is that you're going to hear from the teens and youth themselves. There's a panel of youth who are currently in foster care who will be talking about their experience as being in foster care, and also talk about what they need from foster parents or what they didn't get from foster parents, how being a foster parent for an adolescent could change their lives or could have propelled them in a different direction. So we're really, really excited about that. In addition, there will be actually foster parents who are fostering and providing homes for adolescents, so you get to talk to them and have real live experiences about youth and care, particularly working with the adolescent and teen population. So that is really, really exciting.
Excellent.
Yes.
I think we have another caller. Hello, what's your question or comment?
Oh, wow.
Yes. My question is, can y'all give us a little bit of a history of what have been some of the problems or issues that the state has had with members of the queer community adopting children?
Thank you for that question. It's not as much of an issue now in Illinois for same-sex couples to adopt children, and with the passage of or a ruling for marriage equality with the Supreme Court, that also impacted a lot of the laws in states. There's still some states that kind of lag behind. Florida was notorious for being a horrible place for same-sex couples to adopt children. But there, in Illinois, same-sex couples can definitely adopt, and that's been the case for a number of years. You're making me think that we should probably have a lawyer on at some point to talk about family planning and family issues for LGBTQ couples. So in terms of maybe foster care and LGBTQ foster parents in the system, what have your experiences been in terms of licensing?
We have seen a tremendous increase in licensing same-sex couples and for them to become foster parents as well as adoptive parents over the last 2 years. At Child Serve in particular, we've probably licensed anywhere from 15 to 20 homes for various, foster to adopt only, people who are interested in fostering. So I think the climate and the organizations and in Illinois has changed tremendously. Like you said in this opening speech, I've been doing this for 25 years, and that wasn't the case.
You're right.
So much back then, but I think it has definitely changed, and I think it has opened us, the agencies, up to resources that we may have not had access to before, because in the end, what we're trying to do is provide loving, safe, and caring homes for children. And why would we seclude or exclude one part of the population because we weren't comfortable with it and we didn't know about it, or they weren't sure they could get licensed or be a part of it? And I think that has changed tremendously in Illinois, and I'm really excited about that.
And I know DCFS was recently had a comment period with some of their policies and procedures around LGBTQ youth as well as foster parents, and the training that they provide for all foster parents. So a lot has changed, it doesn't mean that there aren't some improvements that could be made.
Absolutely.
But my sense is from the outside, there's definitely a willingness to go there and to be as inclusive as possible, like you said, for the sake of all the young people who are in the system.
Yeah. And in our last event that we had in July, we focused a lot. Our focus was on the LGBTQ youth, and our response was tremendous. Like it was over 100
Yes.
folks that were there. We had a panel discussion of people who are youth who are involved in the foster care and the DCFS system, and they told and shared their stories from when they were little to how they aged out. And it was just amazing to see how many folks came out to support that issue and that initiative to find homes for the LGBTQ youth. And many of the agencies have already started working with some people who are interested in fostering and adopting some of our youth, and are in the process right now of completing that. So that's a really big thing for this coalition to be able to say, from our last event, we're going to see some numbers hopefully in the near future of how impactful these forums can be for our youth.
I know that I was just blown away. I got to speak for a few minutes, and so the perspective of looking out into the audience was just like overwhelming. So many caring people, young people there who were sharing their stories, foster parents there, prospective foster parents, and then all the agencies who were there answering the questions. So I really, really encourage folks, if you are interested, even if you're just thinking about fostering or adopting, to come to this event. I'm going to show it one more time. So it's on October 22nd from 10 to 1 at Kennedy King. And definitely you want to be there if this is something that's on your mind. And I love that it's on the south side.
It's amazing also that the event is being held at one of our community colleges, but we also have the support of the director. Director Sheldon will be there as a part of, as he was at our last event, to try to pull us all together and to give us the call to action to be able to create homes for our youth. So we're really excited about that.
And I understand we have another caller. Hello?
Yes, I'm very happy to hear that this is on the south side of Kennedy King. I'm really happy to hear that. But I also heard about this amazing thing that y'all got, this tiny homes summit thing that y'all have been working on. I'm really excited. Is there any way that y'all are connecting this foster care program with the tiny homes at all?
Well, thank you for asking that question. So we're going to have to do a show on tiny homes too.
Okay.
So you're right. We did have this tiny home summit back in April. Pride Action Tank and others are looking at tiny homes as one way to house youth who are experiencing homelessness, like perhaps young people who may be enrolled in city colleges because they don't have dorms, and these are young people who are obviously at a point where they are ready for independent living, but could also use some support as well. So that's something that we're thinking about. We haven't linked it to foster care necessarily, but definitely to housing instability for, I would say, the older young people who are enrolled in some type of job training or school or something like that. So thank you so much for asking that question. Before we go, because I cannot believe how much time has flown, I want to talk about another event that Pride Action Tank is involved with, and it is a town hall that's coming up October 20th, and it is the first time that we're aware of that the LGBTQ community and the gun violence prevention community is coming together for this kind of programming. So it's going to be a town hall that is about education, coalition building, and action. We have quite a few speakers, both from the LGBTQ community and from the gun violence prevention community, to talk about issues. So we have an education community, an education panel. We also have an action panel where we can talk about tangible things that people can do. It's, gun violence in general is a big issue that it's hard to wrap your arms around. So we're going to begin to kind of chip away at this in terms of information so that people don't feel so overwhelmed. So I encourage people to come out on October 20th. It's a free event. You can register by checking us out at prideactiontank.org, and we want you to come out. So thank you so much, Pleshette, for coming. I cannot wait for this event on October 22nd. Yes. Folks, make sure that you come out. And I want to remind folks that we are here the first Friday of the month. So we will be here November 4th, and we're going to be talking about voting. Voting is an act of sexual liberation. All right. So if you're really intrigued by that, tune in next month. And thank you for tuning in now. And we will see you in November.